Welcome back to this episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. Today I'm joined by someone who embodies the reason why we do this podcast. This gentleman is an educator, he's an entrepreneur, and he's an author. And he has touched hundreds of local startups. And welcome, Allen Clary.
George, thanks. Great to be here in the studio.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to have you here. These things are better when we're sitting across the table. Zoom.
Absolutely.
So, Allen, you've got quite an extensive background when it comes to entrepreneurship and just sort of like this whole, it seems like your life is about giving back to these young entrepreneurs. Where did that all start?
Well, the giving back part just started probably from just fatigue of doing it yourself, right? And so, yeah, at some point you got to step back, and start giving back when you can no longer like muster up to put another startup together. It's more fun to help other people. The older you get, that's probably
like, is that the grandkids concept?
Yes, the grandkids.
Yeah.
It's the grandkids playbook to startups. It's probably the best honest answer. When I got in the 2015 timeframe, I was looking for like something new to do. And in the old days, it would just be like another business or startup. But a lot of the work that I was doing with the Tampa Bay Wave at the time, which we'll talk about, all of a sudden I was surrounded by these dozens of early stage founders that needed, and I was a lot older at that point than they were. And I was like, wow, I think this is going to be more fun than doing it myself. Right. So that's kind of how it started, really since about 2015, I guess, when I started teaching the class. I think I started teaching the course at USF in 2016. So right around that time frame.
Well, I think you and I have a similar background. We both grew up watching, our dads be an entrepreneur, and my grandfather was an entrepreneur. What was that like for you? Yeah,
thanks for asking about my dad. I lost him in 2018 to cancer.
Point
early.
the mic a little bit more at your mouth.
Yeah, I lost my dad in 2018, and he was an inspiration for a lot of the work that I do today. And so, what was it like? I don't think of it as much about entrepreneurship per se. My dad was like very big personality, very alpha in so many ways. It was more, I think what rubbed off on me was just his will to win and his kind of sheer will and determination, and everything he did, I think, was the biggest thing that stood out to me. Mm-hmm. And of course, his workaholism, work ethic.
What did he do?
Yeah, it was engineering, a type of like traditional land development, here in Florida.
Civil engineer?
Yeah, civil engineering and the surveying and mapping piece of that. So all of the biggest land developers in North Florida would want to work with him because he would get all the projects done on time, under budget. And so, that would be a 7-day-a-week deal. And I think he had like close to 20 crews at one point out in the field. So, and I grew up at age 15 out in the swamps of Florida myself.
Oh, that's fun.
Machete in hand.
That's the best life.
Alligators, snakes. The worst thing were the yellow jackets. People think it was the snakes and the gators, but it was the yellow jackets, because you'd be, taking a break, standing, somewhere in the woods somewhere, just thinking everything's great, and you look down and you wonder why your legs are on fire. You're standing in a yellow jacket nest.
Oh my God.
So,
that's my worst fear, dude. Yeah. Flying, swarming, stinging insects.
Yeah.
I will take alligators and snakes and sharks over that any day.
Yeah, that's right. So that's how, my dad was an inspiration, and, he, had a high school education barely. And when he passed away, he'd become a many times over millionaire, and just had done that from just hard work and being just willing to work harder than everybody else and just be more tenacious than everybody else. But the key, you have to start your own business. So you have to own a business to create wealth. Right. And so he made the big leap. And when he really couldn't afford to do that, and changed the fortunes of our family.
Why do you think he did that?
Changed the, pretty much the same reason most people do. He had become the number 2 person in the company that he worked for, and just grew more and more frustrated with the owner, so to speak, right? And he was kind of running the show, but not getting any of the major benefit. So I think clearly a frustration of not being able to go as fast as he'd like to go, not being able to do all the things he wanted to do.
You kind of hit a ceiling.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. At some point, his level of performance and quality and attention to detail was just up here. You can't like get past the owner. It was a mid-sized company that he was working for, actually. And so at some
Yeah,
point,
you can't progress past the owner.
right. Yeah. At some point, usually most people don't want to quit. My dad couldn't afford to do it. He had 4 kids but his frustration, I talk about in the book, even aside from him, the frustration gets so high that you have to make your move. You can't take it anymore. Yeah. Right. A lot of people can relate with that. So what I always say to people too, is that, entrepreneurs a lot of times don't want to make the leap if the owners of the companies that they work for were a little more in tune with the entrepreneurial mindset, right, and a little more attuned to the frustrations of being an entrepreneur mindset in a company, then you can keep some of your best talent a lot longer. I would argue that maybe you and I are at this table right now because we just couldn't take it anymore.
Well, I remember I actually had a conversation with one of the guys that I worked for. I was, kicking butt. I was selling a lot. We were doing a great job. The employees were happy. Clients were happy. And I felt like after close to 2 years, I was like, okay, I have a track record. This isn't coming out of left field. Like, I'd like to find out, is there any kind of an opportunity for me to get equity in this business? Because I don't want to just be on the hamster wheel. I'd like to know that what I'm doing is maybe planting a seed or a row of seeds, something to where I can multiply what I'm doing.
Yeah. And let me guess, it didn't go,
it's kind of the same thing. Like I had that conversation with him and I said, hey, I've been doing a really good job. I think you would agree, or my numbers all say that I am. Is there any opportunity for equity? And he said, no. And so I was like, well, then I think I have to leave because I think I have to do this because I'm in my mid-30s. I always had it in me growing up in an entrepreneurial family. And so it's like, okay.
Well, this is, I think, is kind of a little known fact about entrepreneurs. I don't hear this talked about or written about enough. And I've seen this, anecdotally, statistically in my own polling of things with all of the successful entrepreneurs I work with, as you know, with Tiger 21, just the people who have won the trophies and gotten all the way through. None of them, for the most part, none of them really set out or needed or wanted to be an entrepreneur. They were kind of a lot of times pushed into it through these kinds of stories, the frustration of working really, really hard and not being able to participate in something more, or having a really bad boss or a bad culture, or wanting to treat their clients better than the company that they work for allows them to, on and on and on. I mean, I'm thinking about all the top entrepreneurs I know in this city, and we talked about one this morning. I won't name names, and his story was the same. He left because of frustration. Not like it. So sometimes we think that entrepreneurs are kind of born to a certain degree, and we think that they were always going to do it. But I don't find that to be true. I think I almost never see that to be true. It's interesting, right?
It is interesting. I have met some people that were. And usually this is on like their second or third business, but they were like, okay, I have a goal. We're going to accomplish this. There's really more of like a roadmap, but a lot of times that first one was, hey, I was really good at turning a wrench. I was really good at code. I was really good at design. I was really good at whatever, right? Maybe a restaurateur, like a chef starts a restaurant. And it's not until a lot of times they get into it and they get a little bit over their head that they're like, oh my God, like there's processes, there's techniques to this.
This just sucks working for somebody else, right? Or
maybe go back to maybe they go back, right?
And let's say it differently. I've almost never met anybody leave a good job, a great paying job that they're happy in, to be an entrepreneur. It sounds funny to say that out loud, but I've yet to meet very many. I'm sure there are a few.
There has to be, the opportunity would have to be so good,
right?
Yeah.
In fact, in something the little thing I like to say is, entrepreneur, when to make your leap a lot of times is when capability meets opportunity, but powered by either frustration or a big idea. You actually just said the other. So you have to have the capability, that's both in hard skills and soft skills, and the ability, the capability to be a leader and to, put that on your shoulders, right? Whether it be natural talent, whether you're naturally good communicator or you're naturally good at building, whatever the capability is. I would even include money into that possibly, right? Meets opportunity, right? So you can be sitting in a company employed, but if there's no opportunity to make a move, you shouldn't be making the move. You need to wait your time. An opportunity could be, Opportunity could be, the company that you're working for is starting to degrade for whatever reason. An opportunity could be
like maybe the clients aren't as happy as they once were, and it's like, why are we stuck in this way? Like this could be done.
Or you may have a friend who wants to start a business, approaches you and says, "Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm making the move. You want to join me?" There's an opportunity, right? But you got the capability, but the timing. So opportunity is about timing. So and you know this in your own life, I'm sure, without even knowing the details of your story chords, you had to have the ability and you had to have the timing, right? Sometimes the timing is forced on you. So getting laid off or even fired is opportunity.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
Timing, right? So capability meets opportunity. But there's two kind of X factors to make it really go. One is a high degree of frustration, right? Because that's like the power, capability. So if you just have capability meets opportunity, that's not enough to make the leap, right? Because you don't have any fuel on that, right? Because I can be sitting in a really good job, paid well, culture's okay, boss is okay, it's pretty. And then a friend comes to me and says, "I'm going to start a company. You want to be my partner?" I'm probably going to pass.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to pass it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to look at my partner and I'm going to say, she's probably going to be really successful. And I feel like I'm going to regret this. But why would I leave here? I'm doing okay. It's not so bad. So you have to have like this frustration. That same person, she comes to me in my time of when I'm really like had enough of
like
where I'm
there's
at.
drive there.
Yeah,
there's like some kind of an emotional motivation.
Do this. Yeah, let's go, right? The other one is a big idea. So usually the frustration is the number one thing you see, but a big idea can be another one. Like let's say I'm content in my job, I'm well paid. I'm not content. I know I'm going to make a move someday, right? I got to have the basic capability, the basic drive for this, right? Let's say the opportunity comes, the same person, right? But I'm not super frustrated, but I'm not super. But she has this idea that when I hear it, I'm like, oh,
that would be fun.
I'm going, not just fun, like if I don't get, like, I'm not frustrated. I don't have, but I cannot let this get, I'll regret this. Well, not just makes no sense. I'll regret it the rest of my life. Like this could be this is my ticket. I may not see another opportunity like this. She may come and say, "Hey, I've got, $500,000 in funding and this idea," not just any idea, but like, so a big idea or frustration kind of like can give you what you need to make that move.
How does someone know if they actually have that in them?
I've got a pat answer for that. It can't be put in you, right? I always just say, you know it if you have it. That's how I answer that question usually. You know it if you have it. Doesn't mean you're super confident as a person. In fact, I talk about in my book, I say you don't have to be a confident person to be a successful entrepreneur, and I can get into that. So it's not about confidence or, there's plenty of capable people. It's kind of it's kind of calling your name a little bit always. Well, it's ticking inside of you. You're different. You're different. So you kind of know you've got this edge, this unfulfilled why. You've got this thing in you that that's calling, right?
To me, I mean, tell me if I'm on the right track here, but one of the things that I look for when I'm trying to identify people who are entrepreneurial is these are people who are comfortable when there's no roadmap. So let's say we have some initiative. Yeah. They're the ones that say, "I can figure that out." Right? So it could be that it requires them to do a little research, that for them to test a few things, but they're just natural at like figuring things out, and they are confident that they will figure them out when they get there.
Yeah, I would agree with that entrepreneurs need that for sure. But I would feel like the bar is much higher than that because entrepreneurship is really about risk taking, isn't it? It's really about risk taking. In fact, you don't have to be the smartest, most capable person to be a successful entrepreneur. You just got to be willing to put it on the line and put yourself out there and be willing to be broke. We call it in the classroom. Sometimes I say, it's the sleep in your car test. Are you willing to sleep in your car to do this?
That's tough.
Right?
Yeah.
You and I have talked several times. We got to know each other a little bit. I can't wait to get to know you better. So weird. We've been in the same town. It's like we're long lost brothers. In fact, we just found out today that we grew up not far apart from each other. But that sleep in your car test is big, and it's something that, so people can be very smart and capable and have some of the things you mentioned. I think those make great entrepreneurs or great managers and leaders for sure. But are you willing to put your paycheck on the line? Are you willing to again, go broke trying? That's every entrepreneur, every majorly successful entrepreneur. I'm talking about the ones that I know that are like outsized successful. All of them had that put it on the line moment.
Yeah, those are the for sure. Like,
Yeah.
like for me, like I would definitely not put myself in that category of outsized successful, but
But you did put it on the line at some point.
I did put it on the line, but it wasn't until someone said, "Hey, I've got your back. You don't have to go without a paycheck no matter what," that I said,
Yeah.
"Okay,
Yeah.
you know, we can be business partners."
And we should be honest with ourselves. Like I love teaching and talking about this. My dad had what I just described tenfold, his ability to put it online, which he did. He told me the story one day. His first day to the office after he started his job, he cried on his way to work because he didn't know how he's going to make payroll that week, and he'd convinced so many people to join him. And that gets me every time I think about it. And stay home mom, my mom, and we have 4 kids. It was not a time to be starting a business. And he did that. So willing to take a massive risk is a prerequisite for true entrepreneurship. I think that's really important.
You're carrying a lot of people. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of responsibility. I mean, I had a moment once, I've never even told anybody this, but I had a moment once when we moved into our new office space that we are now like kind of busting at. But I remember thinking like, oh my God, like how am I even going to make like this, like be able to fill this space?
Yeah.
And I left work one day a little bit early because I had somewhere to be. And I looked out in the parking lot. There was like 10 cars out there. And I'm like, those
are your car payments.
Those are like,
those are your car payments out there.
Those are my car payments because because I'm paying the salaries that are paying for those car payments. But I remember feeling like, oh my God, this is a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And almost blown away by the fact that I had, all of these cars and these families out there were in a large part dependent on some of the decisions that I have to make. Yeah. And it's and it wasn't from like an ego standpoint, but it was just sort of like,
it's like an oh shit component.
It's like an oh shit. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, like,
right.
This is a real business.
Yeah.
You know, we're not mom and popping it anymore.
Right. So I think that, that risk taking is so important. And you were taking some reputational risk. I mean, even if you had a backer or a partner, you're taking reputational risk, risk of failure, risk of embarrassment. There's a lot of risk other than just financial, and also the risk of giving up what you have. See, it's really hard, and this too. It's really hard for an entrepreneur once you've made the leap to go back to your old job. Your industry, you're kind of good. It can be done, but it's actually pretty hard because not only is your old job not maybe going to be there, but number 2, you got a lot of explaining to do to some future employer about whether are you a leaper entrepreneur or are you a company guy?
Well, let's talk about you for a second because I think I think there's some very relevant parts of your background that you can kind of dig in a little bit deeper because your background was as a company guy, right? And then there's a very definite separation between being the company guy and then now being this innovator in the entrepreneurship community, right?
I had two breakaways, and I'm a massive risk taker for sure. The first breakaway, I left my family business, and you and I touched on this before. And as much as I admire and idolize my dad, he was hard. He was kind of the opposite of me to a certain degree. We were both kind of, for lack of a better word, alphas. So it was like big bull, little bull, I like to tell people. And I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, and he's just one of the most intimidating men you could ever meet. I used to say, make grown men cry. I had to just look at them wrong, right? I mean, this was construction engineering world, right? And I was kind of into tech, and so we really had a hard time in my mid 20s and also I'm kind of more of a touchy-feely guy. I'm empathetic and people.
So this would have been in the 80s,
like that. No,
90s,
mid-90s, right?
But I think to be fair to your dad, there was a totally different point of view on management back then.
Sure.
I went to business school in the late 90s, late 90s. It wasn't even 2000s. And there was total quality management, and there were it was all about like perfection, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember we were studying the Japanese because it used to be that Japanese cars weren't that good.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they became by far the best cars because they had management processes that were always continuous improvement. And these are a lot of business buzzwords. But mean, just to be fair to your dad, like a
Yeah.
lot of this leadership training wasn't.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't worry about too much being fair. He was a big boy for himself, right? Okay. Meaning like he ran a business that I was like 50 to 80 employees or so. You know,
that's a big engineering.
Yeah, he got for what he did, and it reflected his personality. Kind of like your Big More Pies. You're probably not you're not like this, big personality type person, but this company has your personality on it,
sure,
and your culture and your vibes and your values and how you is reflective in a small to medium sized company, right? And so with my dad, he had his style, and it was intense, and it was a mid-sized company like that, and I grew up under him as a kid, so I already had this, for lack of a better word, intimidating father that I grew up under. And now I'm in his company, and it just became a lot. And as I was coming of age,
extra pressure.
Oh yeah, I was coming of age in my 20s, and I was interested. Like I said earlier, I'm kind of a people person.
That had to be super awkward, because if you think about the other people that were working with you, they probably had to balance. It's just the nepotism.
Oh, no, he told him the first day. He said, "You go harder on this young man, this kid, than you'll ever go on anybody." Right. So he made it clear that it would be twice as hard on me.
He wanted to toughen you
twice
up.
as hard. Oh yeah. And I grew up, very much in a rural area. So we being made tough and was part of it. I told people today, even as a kid, my dad would try to break me as a young boy so that I'd be tougher than the world could handle. Right. And to this day, I'm pretty unbreakable, which is why I'm a risk taker. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of any risk, almost no risk.
Have you always been that way?
Always, since I was a kid. I mean, I have to credit my dad for that. He put me in extreme situations. I mean, he was not a Navy SEAL, but it was like having a Navy SEAL for a dad who I would even say some Navy SEALs are probably softer on their own kids because they love their. My own man, kind of like you grew up, where we grew up, like he had a lot of not just blue collar. What I don't know what's agriculture below blue collar, right? In terms of in the fields, like so in his world growing up under his dad, it was all about the kind of the world is a really hard place. He came up barely out of the Depression, right? So yeah, as a kid, he just loved making it extremely hard, and I kind of understood it at the time. I had a lot of really rough moments through that, but I always felt tougher when I came through it. So by the time I did get to manhood, just as he ordained, I was a tough kid. And then when I went to work for the company, they were like, "Now see if you guys can how hard can you make it on this kid?" And so it was always a challenge.
So when you got to regular corporate America, it was probably pretty easy.
It was different because now all of a sudden it's politics and stuff, right? So that's what I fell into.
God, we don't talk about that enough on here. I hate company politics.
I know. But I found, and I get into the book here, I thought I could be a workaholic like my dad and rise to the ranks and like outwork everybody like he did. But I found that in bigger companies that doesn't always work. In fact, I talk about you being a threat. I got a chapter called "You Get Used Up." You can be used up. Like they'll take all you're given, and you can also be a threat to people who want to go a little slower and don't want to be as ambitious or would rather play the politics than get stuff done. Right? Entrepreneurs, as you know, just like to get stuff done. Right?
Can I share an example
please,
of that?
Please.
So I played the easiest position on the football team growing up. I was a kicker. Okay, I wanted to be a linebacker, but God didn't bless me with the frame or the skills to do that. So I was a kicker, and so we would split off into the kicking, the regular field during practice, and everybody else would be dying over there on the regular, like in the dust, in the dirt and the mud, hitting each other, grinding all practice long. And then at the end of practice, whether I was in high school or college doing this, we would all get on the line. The coach would blow the whistle. We all had to like run across and then run back. Well, before I knew anything, I would sprint as fast as I could. And here I am. I've done practically nothing all practice long except kick a football and pretend to be a football player. And so all these other guys that were completely worn out couldn't keep up because I was fresh.
Right.
And I didn't understand that. Well, that's when I learned that there is a teamwork component to helping your colleagues look good too.
Yeah. And that's something that, I didn't get a lot of guidance on, right? Because my father was a very singular come out on top. And that's how he did. And I think that works in a small, medium-sized, can work in a small business, can work in a lot of trades and a lot of places, right? But then here I went and got it. And, I wanted, technology was my thing, and being in big companies, I was really, that's what I was excited about. And so I had to, figure out that, you can't just play it straight, or if you play it straight, it is not necessarily a winning strategy. And I was even though I was able to make it to the C-suite of a medium-sized company, I was miserable every step of the way, Cords. Like I mentioned this in my book. Mostly just because the more I worked, the more it would be put on me. Like I think just I felt like corporate was just soaking up everything that I would give, and I was willing to give more than most. Like, to me, Sunday through Sunday was not unusual, and I wouldn't even be asked to do it. Like, that's just what I did. I was the guy who would come up, like, I'm looking at your company here.
You just felt like I would be needed.
I'd be the guy up here on Saturday because my dad would be up there on Saturday. I'd be up here on Sunday morning because my
totally
dad was up here on Sunday morning, right?
Get that. Yeah.
And luckily, my wife, she knew, she's great. She kind of just, she knew the animal when she met me, but I don't know, so I found that it got me to management, and it got me like bumping up to the suite, but pretty miserable by way of just, I don't think either the appreciation could never quite be there. Like I was appreciated for sure, but not to the level that I wanted to be, if that makes sense, right? Like I'm doing a lot more than anybody can really see, and it's not really necessarily seen or appreciated. I'm like, wow, I think I probably should be doing this, for myself,
for yourself,
because this is not really adding up. I'm just working more and more and more, making a little bit more, and getting more and more golden handcuffed. Anyway, that was the story for me.
Yeah, I remember I left a company. The first, I was for 7.5 years. I was this one company, and I remember acting a lot like what you're talking about. My grandfather was in the Depression, and he would talk about eating, shrimp and grits was not a treat in that house. It was the only thing they had to eat. And if they didn't catch the shrimp, they wouldn't be eating it. He was from Savannah, right? So you're familiar. So, but that was ingrained to me. Spent a lot of time with him growing up. But I remember just working 24/7. Like, this is how I'm going to have to make it. This
like a farmer.
This is how I've been told you have to make it.
Like a farmer, yeah.
And so, and I remember thinking, like, how come I'm not in that management meeting? How come I'm not in that C-suite? Like, I've got great ideas.
Yeah.
I'm solving all these complicated problems. I can do this.
Yes.
How come they're not letting me in that room?
That's how I would feel.
And I just didn't understand the politics of it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand
I kind of put it this way, but in corporate, the hardest workers, you want them to kind of stay put a little bit, like, because they're the lifeblood of the company. There's no incentive to overly promote your hardest working people, even your smartest people. Now that sounds, there's people out there
in most companies.
In a lot of cases, you think about it naturally. What's the incentive? Why would I? If the person who is making the most money for the company, who's managing the most projects and the most clients, and is the absolute star of the company, right? Why pull them out of that into some management or when they're the breadwinner of the company? So I think there's a little bit of disconnect on the motivation there. People, it's not the same skill set to be the number one player. Like, let's go to sports. It's not the number one player, and the most talented person on the team does not necessarily make a great coach. In fact, almost no star athletes ever become coaches successfully. All that try don't do well. It's a very different skill set, almost kind of animal, I like to say, to be kind of a C-suite kind of exec, or even an owner. A business owner is very different than an executor. There's a lot of variances there that I didn't understand, that I talk about today more. But I was like you. I was heads down. Like, if I just keep working the old farmer way, I'll just go make my way to the top. But meanwhile,
eventually,
there are some barriers at the top, right?
Yeah,
guess what? The owners own it. See, I didn't understand that either. I never understood why I wasn't just being handed equity all the time.
I didn't understand it. It seemed so obvious, but I didn't understand it either. I was like, how come? Yeah. How come? Like, I'm not able to participate? Yeah. And then what it was for me was, all of a sudden, in comes one of the kids of the owner, and I was supposed to train them on how to get them up to speed. And I was like, wait a second, this feels like a caste system or something. Like I'm, I feel like I've earned my way into the spot. I mean, God bless them. They're, they won the lottery, but I was like, man, this isn't cool. I'm going to go try to make my own tree. You know?
So if anybody listening to this, what they can hear between the lines here is that there is I call it in my book, an entrepreneurial ceiling in a company, right? In other words, it's not the ownership of, let's say, a mid-sized company. I'm talking about like a small to mid. A mid would be like a few hundred employees on the upper big side. 100 employees or less than 100 on the lower side.
So mid might be publicly traded.
May or may not be, but there's definitely people at a few hundred employees or more. Definitely somebody's getting rich.
Sure, there's generating a lot of revenue.
Well, now or when they sell the company.
Yeah.
Somebody getting rich. They're being, the guys, people at the top are really well paid because there's millions and millions of dollars revenue. And when they sell at some point, they're going to, so, like this entrepreneurial ceiling means that like, there's not necessarily, you like to think there's a path to the top there, but it probably isn't what it appears, right? How many, of course,
so make your own path.
Why do you think people have to leave to go work for another company to try to like somehow find their way up?
And that's your book, Quit to Start.
Yeah. So that's the entrepreneurial ceiling I talk about. And the sooner you understand that. Now, here's the other thing I want to say. This is really important, like a cool disclaimer, right? Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. In fact, if none of this sounds appealing, if high risk taking doesn't sound appealing to you, if it doesn't, I want to say this really, really clear, right? Most entrepreneurs that I know that make the leap, at any level, have had a pretty unhappy run. This is not the happiest path in the world. It's staying in a job, making a great living with great benefits, getting 2 or 3 weeks vacation or more, with a great boss and a culture and a quality of life, and get to go home and watch your favorite Netflix show, and go goof around and go to the beach on Saturdays is really freaking nice. In fact, most of us entrepreneurs, I'm still trying to get there late. I'm trying to accomplish that. I'm almost there. I'm almost to what had I been just
at that first job I left,
right.
I thought I was stressed.
Yeah.
I thought I was stressed. And then if you compare what I deal with on a regular basis now versus what I dealt with as an employee, it's like, what must have been 10% of what I would carry around now, right?
Right. So I don't overly encourage people to be entrepreneurs. That's what gets back to your original question. It's kind of like in you. If you're just burning, if there's something not right, the frustration, no matter where you turn, you can't, then it might be for you, right? But just know that is not a ticket to a happy life. In fact,
these are conversations. So Allen, I don't know if everybody knows your background. Can we talk about you for a second? Absolutely. I know you're a super humble guy. We're both from that part of the world, right? Let's talk about your journey of how you left the company you're working for, how you identified that there was a need in the marketplace, and what you did and what you created.
So you want to hear how intense it was? Like I was making 6 figures, right? And like I was the person I described earlier. I had like a lot of clients, a lot of projects. I was doing consulting, right, in the technology space. But I was miserable, man. Just miserable. I was in the last startup. I was in my mid-30s, and I have my wife who's not. She didn't have a necessary career. She wanted to raise our kids, and so there wasn't like extra income. And I had a daughter coming through school and so forth. So I was not the perfect timing. But I just couldn't handle couldn't handle it anymore. I was just so frustrated. And I wasn't mad at my employer. I had for the most part, a great company, great everything, right? But the piece inside of me was unfulfilled, right? I had a big thing that I had to go chase.
Did you have to prove it that you could?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people like to think maybe I was trying to prove it to my dad. Never was, and I really wasn't. It was always me, always just me.
I'm laughing because I think part of it is because I had to prove it. I have to prove it every day to my grandfather. Who's longer with
people
us,
think a lot of times because they know my dad, they think that was the drive for me. It never was. It was always me. I just had him in me. Whatever DNA he had, I've got, and so I just had this relentless, unsettled, kind of unhappy thing underneath that I couldn't. And so I needed to go create something I needed to go create something. I didn't even care about making money or anything like that. I just wanted to get free. And really freedom.
It's fun to create something.
And by the way, freedom, chords. It was freedom, man. I just wanted my own life, not like slaving away anymore. I couldn't do it anymore, right? And so, yeah, as soon as I had like, I think as soon as I had like $6,000 or $7,000 in the bank.
So that's like 1 month.
That's about
paycheck.
all I had. I had like 1 month.
Yeah.
I mean, but I had a couple. For money wise, that was it. But I had kind of already the idea of what I was going to build without getting into a lot of details. It was a tech app startup for
So you had some app idea.
organizing one's life. It was
Okay.
all things, notes to tasks, calendar, documents. It was all in together before Google Docs and Google Calendar was kind of rocking the way it does today. But yeah, I think I had like $6,000 or $7,000 like a month, maybe something like that. And I just said, I'm done. I'm gonna do this, and I made the leap. And I probably had some credit cards that were gonna maybe get me to the second or third month.
Yeah, there you go. Then maybe
right?
you take the 7,000.
Yeah.
And now you've got 30.
Oh, now I got 40.
Yeah.
I got 14 or 15 or something. And I look back at that and I go, holy crap! And back then too, apps were free. There was no like today, people pay for apps. There's
we
monetization.
Were just trying to figure out how to even monetize.
I did that to go create a free thing. It's insane when I look back at this. You know what happened though? Interestingly, and I got interviewed for this. Within a few months, I started getting calls from friends who wanted to invest.
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't expect that or see that coming at all. 100%.
Why do you think they did that?
I think two things. Well, I think hopefully I impressed enough to think that I was a good bet, but also.
Were you asking for the money?
No, that's my point. They were like, "Check, what are you doing? What are you doing?" This is the thing I've said that I said at the time.
What year was this?
This was 2008.
So this was in a crash.
Oh yeah, in a crash.
Okay.
Now here's the thing: you asked the question why. This is like a rule of the universe. When people see somebody make a move, like make a leap and put themselves at risk and just go all in, people are drawn to that. They want to support it either with their time, money, or something.
That's that law of attraction.
Yeah. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And funny, when you're in a job or you're hemming and hawing and you're side betting, I might do this, I might do that, you're dabbling or side, you're not putting yourself out there at risk, really putting it on the line. Nobody really wants to open all kinds of doors for you or give you money. Like when somebody sees you going all in like that, and putting yourself on, they can't make connections fast enough for you. They're like, I want to connect you to this person, that person, that person.
I think there's a natural part of us that wants to help others that are taking 100% of risk.
I did not know this. When I took that leap, I did not know that would happen, and it happened. And I look back and go, wow, that's what happened. That is what happened.
I was talking to an entrepreneur today, and he was saying that when people hit him up on LinkedIn, they were like, hey, can we get together? He doesn't even know who they are. He'd be like, sure, we can go grab coffee. Right. I'm thinking, my gosh, like that is so nice of him to do that because not very many people have that kind of time.
Yeah, and so it just kind of rolled from there, and we launched at TechCrunch in San Francisco in 2008, and we had a nice run from there. And a year or so later, my tech startup was folded into another company that I was asked to. That's where I got to the C-suite because they asked me to be the COO of the whole roll-up company.
Got you.
Then I became president and COO of that, and it was public for a period of time. Without long story, that's kind of how that is. And then there I was again, but at least I was in the C-suite, and so I felt felt empowerment, like I could finally do things the way I wanted to do them, and get the people. And
it's a good feeling.
Yeah, it was a great feeling, right? And it lasted till about 2015 when I stepped away. And that's when, like the beginning of this interview, and you asked me when I started helping others, it was about 2015, 2016, when I needed a break. I was burned out again. So I went from 2010, 11 to 2015 in this new roll-up company. And it was great for a few years. And the last couple of years were, even though I was in the C-suite, were miserable again. Because you know what? The powers of things started, coming back into play. And I had to leave again. So I've quit. I talk about this. I think I've quit. I've left that was a six-figure job I walked away from again without anything. Every time I've left a six-figure job, I had nothing. I would walk.
You have a lot of confidence.
Craziness, right? I mean, first time I did it with like tears when I left my dad's company. I don't think I was at 100. I think it was like, I had back then in those dollars, I think it was like 60, 70, 80 or something like that.
That was a good living.
Yeah. And then, it was okay. But then, but the other times I didn't do it in an emotional component. That first time was emotional with my dad, but every time after that, I just did it. Like I said, I'm just done.
I'm trying not to say the wrong thing. I want you to quit this.
Yeah. And I don't know how, and by the way, I don't know how to look for another job when I'm in a job. I've never done it. I I can't do it.
It feels like cheating.
Terrible. I can't.
Yeah.
I think it's smart. People who do that are very smart. They land and they do. I could never do it.
Well, I would like to talk about the Tampa Bay Wave.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really important. I would like to talk about peer groups.
Sure.
Those are really, really important things. And that's what I wanted to touch on. So a lot of people don't know that you are the co-founder of the Tampa Bay Wave, which is one of the first incubators in town. Could you tell us a little bit about the Wave?
And it started as a meetup, and it really, I say co-founder, that's use that term loosely. There's really one major founder. Her name is Linda Olson. And the story goes like this. I left the company I told you, and with $6,000 or whatever it was, and some credit cards. Like a month or two later, I had a great relationship with the boss that I left. He was a mentor of mine and actually supportive of me leaving after he asked me to stick around one more year because I'd come to him a year prior that I wanted to leave. And he said, stick around one more year.
To me, though, that's something that doesn't happen very often anymore.
It's a special person.
It's about people going to the leadership and going, hey, I feel like I need to do this thing.
Yeah.
And having that kind of relationship nowadays, a lot of people just say,
This was a special boss. He was the CEO of the company. And he said, hey, if you'll stick around one more year, I'll be the first to support and help you. And he did. And a year later, I came back to him. I said, I've got to do this. And he immediately picked up the phone and made 5 phone calls for me. And then a month or so later, I'm in my home. Back then there was no, work from home was not necessarily a thing. And here I am month 2, I burned up half my money. Yeah. I've got this startup, this product that's pretty much in beta. It's getting launched and it's doing okay. But at that time I felt like I was near the finish line, but looking back at that, what a joke. I was 20% down the line, right, from where I need to be. And I got this phone call out of the blue. And I remember it was was it a home phone? Was it my home phone number? Maybe, this is 2008, maybe.
Sure.
But, and it was this woman's voice. She sounded about my age, and she said, hi, my name is Linda, and I have a tech startup here in Tampa Bay, and I heard that you do too. Tony, your old boss gave me your number, and because she says, I'm trying to organize a meetup I'm trying to collect us up. There's a few of us here. This is before the word ecosystem existed, tech startups. Yeah.
Sorry, ecosystem.
I saw that. And I said, that sounds great. So I was talking to somebody I didn't know. She said, I'm putting a meeting together of other tech founders in the area. Remember, Twitter had been born the year before that. Facebook was born the year before that. This was kind of the social media explosion. Showed up, bring your own beer. And I brought a 6-pack of my favorite beer, and everybody did. And we had our first meeting, and there was 10, 12 or something like that there. And every month it just kept more and more people were showing up, more and more and more, right? And then we got nonprofit status so that we could, have a little food budget stuff and have venues. And sometimes we had to.
And so the Tampa Bay Wave, which is one of the most successful incubators
now
in
there's
town.
a multi-million-dollar budget, and there's hundreds of companies.
It started off as a meetup. And when did y'all name it the Wave?
Right away. Again, Linda, she did, and it was great. It stood for, you'll love this. People don't know. The A was small. It was Web Venture Entrepreneurs. So the iPhone came out right about that time. Mobile was just barely a thing. Apps were still a year or so away. So we were web venture entrepreneur. We were building web applications. We were building and mobile had exploded on us right after that. And all of us were scrambling to be mobile and scrambling to get into apps. But when we first started in 2008, 2009, we were building really cool web apps or things like cool websites, basically. Yeah. So it stood for WAVE, stands for Web Venture Entrepreneurs, and
Web and venture.
Yeah, the A was little. She made the A was little for a long time, and now it's all. But that's right. And then it was a big grant that was won, and it's now hundreds of companies have come through there. I think well over $300 million in venture capital flowed through the organization.
And that's you helped start that.
Yeah, well, I just kind of showed up on an invitation. That's why I say co-founder loosely, because Linda, she's the one who organized it, and I was just lucky enough to get that phone call.
Do you know where any of those people are now?
Yeah, I keep in touch with a few of them. Yeah, you asked me this earlier yesterday, and I need to kind of go back and inventory who those 12 people were. I need to call.
Linda still runs the Wave.
Yeah, she does. She runs
multi-million-dollar organization.
Absolutely.
Good
yeah,
for her, and
great nonprofit doing wonderful things, and it's been a great highlight for the city.
I think, and I'd love to wrap up with this part of the conversation. Those peer groups are unbelievably valuable. to an entrepreneur or to anyone in industry peer groups. And a lot of times they don't exist.
Yeah.
And so Linda's decided,
hey, just put one together. And you're right. You can't say enough about the value of peer groups, right? At any level, like, there's so many different, there's CEO groups, there's tech web founder groups, and there's cohorts. And, it's really important that you get yourself in a room full of people that are in a similar stage of yourself and are doing something similar. You just learn much more. You make fewer mistakes. You get more opportunities. You become a little less crazy of a person because, you're not just in your own head all the time. You get to share.
It's like a support group.
Yeah, right. And it's just, life is better.
So tell us about the group that you run.
Yeah. Well, you're probably referring to Tiger 21. Tiger 21 is now a little over 20 years running, and it was founded by Michael Sonnefeld in New York in 1998, I think it was. And he had a big exit and didn't have anybody to talk to about what to do with his money and what to do next with his life, because entrepreneurs get their identity wrapped up into the thing they're building. And so it's not just a money thing; it's an identity thing.
It's a part of who they are.
Yeah, it's
identity.
Their baby. Yeah, identity. Like, what do I do if I don't go to the office anymore? I've sold my company, right? What do I do now? Like, who am I? Right? These things are real, very real. And sometimes they can strike early. I've got a member who's 29, who sold his e-commerce business for a ton of money, and he's dealing with that at 29. I've got a 29-year-old. I got a 39-year-old who just turned 40. And some in their like that's kind of early to be not, to kind of be like already been given the trophy. Like it's kind of early to get the trophy, right? Like, what do you, because that drive is what makes us all get up in the morning and go, right?
Right. It's like a player without a team.
Right. It's like without a game.
Yeah. Without a team and a game.
A game, nothing. Like you can go crazy. And next thing you know, now you have to go occupy yourself with things that don't come anywhere close to the fire that your company gives you, right? Like showing up to this podcast today, there's energy into this, right?
Right.
Like, that's what your company does for you every day. As an owner, you get that, and so these folks that I have in this group, they're working on their next chapters, how to keep themselves fired up. Whether they're a lot of them don't want to necessarily start another company because they put a lot into the last one, but they want to stay engaged somehow. So it might be mentoring, investing, or in some cases, pickleball. So
I didn't have no idea what pickleball
right.
was. It's like until, geez, I can't remember where I learned about it, but I was like, oh my God, pickleball.
Something to let the competitive juices flow, something to get out that energy. Because, closing a big deal, chasing a big deal, it's a lot of adrenaline. You need that, So that's what we do at Tiger 21. And there's groups around the country. Every major city has at least one group. And now we're opening international. We just opened Tel Aviv, and we've got several in Europe, and it's a pretty neat organization.
That's really cool. And so how involved, you're running two groups for Tiger 21?
Yeah.
And are you involved in any of the leadership or on that path?
I don't really want to be, right? It's perfect like it is. I helped launch, the Sarasota group recently. So I like helping other groups and just, and helping this thing carry on. No interest in leadership.
When you think about the groups that you've helped, and we talk about this grandparent thing, right? Yeah. It's not like, it's not my business, but like the grandkids can come over. And then they can go home. Can you think of a business that you've helped along the way that you're especially proud of because they listened to you, or you just saw it in them? Yeah. Well, I got to talk the one that I'm helping right now. Incredible startup called Twos, TWOS, like twos, two things. And they are creating the next generation of to-dos, tasks, and notes, and keeping track of one's life. I've never seen anything sleeker, more innovative. It's an ex-Google developer with his partner, and it's amazing. And it's based here in the Tampa area. They've had incredible traction. Are they at the Wave? No, the different one, Embark. Yes. Yeah. Okay. And they've tracked. It's so. They just this morning I had a call with them, and they're listening to me. Right. See your point, right? And I'm actually always trying to give them the unorthodox thinking, the unconventional
view, because the conventional thinking doesn't do you very well in a lot of cases, right? You need to be, a lot
Can you
of
share an example
sure,
of what you're talking about?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that one of the things that we've been talking about lately is just that they're going to be looking at investment soon and so forth. They've self-funded to this point, which is incredible. They both saved a year's salary, compared to 1 month they saved a year, and they've been building it on a saved salary.
They've been doing a lot of the work.
Yeah, oh yeah. All of it, and it's really great. But something we talk about is they're trying to conquer the world with this. They want to be the next Evernote / Todoist or Apple Notepad. Like, they want to be.
Wow.
They would they're not shooting anything less than $1 billion valuation. Someday they want to be the thing that everybody knows, right? And so they need to make sure that their advisors and the investors that they are around are able to go there, because a lot of investors or high net worth individuals are risk averse. It's funny, entrepreneurs take risk, but nobody likes to take a lot of risk with their money, right? And so
it doesn't matter how much they have.
Yeah, right.
Like, they might still use a coupon.
They may feel differently about their money than they do about starting a lot of entrepreneurs will bet on themselves all day long, take massive risks, but money is different, right? And so this idea that don't play small, like they've got a large play here, and my advice is don't let people who are used to de-risking.
Oh, right.
Yeah, don't allow yourself to be de-risked. If you're doing that. Now, if you're building a B2B product, or
that's really good advice.
Yeah,
that's really, really, really
right?
good advice, because you can get the wrong investor in there who wants to take it slower.
Yeah.
And that window could just close and go.
Small. Like,
that's too late.
Let's just try to do this one
It'll
thing.
be the most expensive money you ever saved.
Yeah. I mean, if you're building great sound advice, if you're building a B2B product, business to business, you're building something, but if you truly have created this macro for the masses type of a product, don't let anybody talk you out of that, because they will, because that scares a lot of people. It scares a lot of investors, scares a lot of advisors. Like, oh, that's too much. Well, you got to narrow that down. What's your
more
target? What's your target?
Yeah.
And again, that's good sound advice in so many cases. But in this case, with these two founders, what they're doing, they're swinging for the fences, and I'm trying to help. Don't let them get sucked into anything smaller than that.
That's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
Where can we follow you and what they're doing?
Well, you can definitely find their app in the App Store, TWOS as in twos. And I don't have any equity yet, so I'm just doing this for fun. Yet, notice. So,
yeah, well, good. I hope I hope you get the opportunity.
I joke because I help a lot of startups that I never get equity in, so I just talk about things I'm excited about, including this, and we'll see if they throw me any equity along the way. I don't really do it for that. I'm like you, Cords. I just enjoy helping. I see something I'm excited about, or somebody that that's again back to making the leap. When people help me, when I made the leap, the law of attraction. These guys have the law of attraction going.
I've heard about them. I've heard about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And
with me, I'm going to be working on my next book soon. This is my first book, Quit to Start, which is all about what we talked about today. Although there's a lot of stuff in there that's about, picking the right kind of business. And, we ran out of time. Maybe I'll come back. We'll talk about, scalability and what things are investable, what's not investable, what things could make you wealthy and have freedom, what things probably could never make you wealthy or give you freedom. Like, I've got students who want to open restaurants, and I'm like, good, but just know that, if you don't play your cards right, you might end up with no money or time if you don't know what you're getting into. That's just a random example. I wouldn't, we have Outback here. Okay. So these restaurants can be very successful.
Yeah, they can.
But a lot of people get into kind of without a good headspace for that, and they get sucked into the wrong side of it. So, but no, you can follow me with my full name on social handles, and my quittostart.com. So that's one right there. And last thing I'll say, I put this book out 2 months before the pandemic, and I really freaked out because when the pandemic hit, people were holding on to their jobs. They were scared crapless, right, because of the economy. Right. And I wrote it. My first blog was like, did I write the right book at the wrong time? And so I had crickets for a couple months, and my book launch got shelved. I went to 2 in-person book launches. The third one got shelved. The fourth one got shelved. And I was like, And here I'm with a book with the title "Quit" on the cover, which people told me don't put that word on the cover. That's a negative word. And by the way, the only thing for sure, entrepreneurs never quit. Like I had people revolt at this, repulsed by this book.
You balanced it with the story.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, but then a couple months later, the Great Resignation unfolded.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like the word "quit," you can't like now. I think the government refers to it as quits. Plural, like the number of quits because this Great Resignation has been measured by quits.
I think a lot of people were wondering like what they were doing with their lives.
Yeah,
it's like we were faced with this really intense, pandemic situation, and it's just, everybody was kind of in their little rhythm, and now all of a sudden we've been taken out of our rhythm for a couple weeks, and we're going, oh God, like how serious is this, and what am I doing?
Well, you did something right, because I walked in here today and I saw a lot of. You have a fairly large team here, and they all just seem always. Every time I visited you, they always seem pretty happy. I don't know if they're just faking that, but I usually walk in unannounced, and they don't even see me walk in when I walk in. So I think it must
make
be
yourself at home.
It seems kind of real.
Yeah, no, you're welcome anytime. Yeah,
it seems kind of real that you've got a good thing going here. So
thank you, Allen. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.
And we're excited about sharing this with everybody, and you guys can follow us anywhere where podcasts are found across all our social media platforms, the Bake More Pie social media platform. And Allen, we're definitely going to have you back, because I want to talk about those elements of how to plan what startup you're going to do.
Yeah.
And what path you're going to take down when you become an entrepreneur. When you've made that decision to make that leap, what do you do next?
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, let's come back soon.
Absolutely.
Well, this is the guy over here who books them, so I'll.
That's great.
We can talk to him right after this.
Fantastic.
Thank you again for joining us. We'll catch you next time.